Yo guys, Superior David here. Blizzard just announced the new Hearthstone expansion, Scholomance Academy, and I just wanted to give you my initial thoughts. I've got my notes here and I'm ready to go, so let's dive into this. The Scholomance Academy expansion is based off of a WoW raid, and in typical Hearthstone fashion, it has a lighter, more playful twist. They're really leaning into the school aspect of this too, getting some big Harry Potter vibes here, and I'm digging it. With Scholomance Academy, we're getting the standard 135 new cards, but for the first time ever, we'll be getting DualClass Cards. There will be a total of 10 class combinations, and I'll throw them up over here so you could see them. And this is definitely what I'm most hyped about for the expansion. Dual class cards are a flavorful way to allow bends in classes' mechanical identities and can help cover their weaknesses or accentuate their strengths in a different way. And I think that's really cool. I'm hoping for more cards in the vein of the Hunter, Druid, Legendary, Shondo, Wildclaw, where they find like mechanical similarities between the classes and play those up in the design, rather than like, hey, let's just jam these two class effects together and see what happens. And we seem to be getting that with Devolving Missiles, which I still think is a fun card. I'm sure we'll be getting both kinds though, and my gut tells me that they'll probably be strong, especially if the other two revealed dual class cards are any indication. We've got Lightning Bloom for Shaman and Druid, which is a more balanced OG Innervate, but man, this card is still really powerful. I think it will definitely see play. And then we got the Mage and Rogue combination in Wand Thief, which seems like a good one drop that most of the time you probably won't play on turn one because you want to get that combo activation. Mage spells are pretty good, so again, I think this will see some level of play. We're also getting a new keyword this expansion called Spellburst. Basically, if a minion or a weapon has Spellburst, you get a one-time effect from it when you cast a spell with that card on the board. Cool idea. Always nice to get extra value from cards, and I like how there's a lot of different ways to take this mechanic, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it. Just it feels like there's a lot of depth here. And since you have to have the spell burst minion or weapon on the board to get these effects when you cast a spell, I think this will be easier to pull off with like cheaper spells and cheaper spell burst cards. So I think these will be the cards to keep an eye on this spoiler season. They did show off a few of the spell burst minions though. First we got Diligent Note Taker for Shaman, a 2-mana 2/3 with spell burst, return the spell to your hand. And this just seems really good. It's cheap, it combos with the new Lightning Bloom pretty well, and it's flexible enough to go into a variety of Shaman decks. I can actually see this being like a staple in all Shaman decks. Yes, there are like plenty of spicy combo things you could do with Diligent Note Taker, but Shaman just doesn't have much card draw, so being able to cast a spell and get it back seems like a premium for the class. They also revealed Goody 2 Shields, a 3-mana 4/2 with Divine Shield and Spellburst, gain Divine Shield. I love the flavor of this card, and people seem pretty bullish on it, but I'm a bit more skeptical. If you perfectly curve out while going first as the Paladin, I think it's powerful, but I think more often than not, you're going to be getting out-tempoed by more aggressive decks, and it's going to die pretty easily. But I think we'll have to see how the meta shakes out to really like be able to fully evaluate this card. Then finally, they revealed Wretched Tutor, which is a 4-mana 2/5 with Spellburst, deal 2 damage to all of their minions. When I first saw this card, I was pretty underwhelmed. But, thinking about it more, this card actually gives every class a way to deal with an on-curve Glowfly Swarm. So if Spell Druid remains a big deck in the meta, which I feel like it will, then I could actually see this card, seeing competitive play. Sort of funny. And now the last new mechanic we're getting with Scholomance Academy is a cycle of cards called Studies. Studies are a new type of spell that allows you to discover a card of a certain type. Then they reduce the mana cost of the next card you play of that type. So for example, Druid is getting Nature Studies, which for 1 mana allows you to discover a spell, and then the next spell you cast costs 1 less. This card, actually scares me because it can go infinite with itself. So if you're playing Spell Druid and you have an exotic Mount Seller on the board, you can keep discovering Nature Studies off of Nature Studies and fill up your board with random beasts. So, I'm really, really hoping that this is the expansion where they're like, hey, maybe Discover cards shouldn't be able to discover themselves. But, we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, that's it for new mechanics. But, they also revealed some more new cards in the announcement, so I'm going to just go over those real fast. First, we got Colt Neophyte, which is a 2-mana 3/2 with Battlecry. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more next turn. And, I think this is going to be more of a tech card you run to counter spell-based combo decks, or, just Spell Druid in general, I guess. Tech cards are easier to slot into a deck when they're cheaper, so I think this will see some level of play. But, at the same time, I don't think it's as good as Loatheb. Then we've got First Day of School, a 0-mana Paladin spell that adds 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. 0-mana spells are typically powerful, and you know what? I think this is just definitely continuing that trend. Paladin struggles when it doesn't curve out, and this card will help out a lot with that. In addition, it's insane with any Spellburst card since you can like get that Spellburst effect on curve. And since we're dealing with 1-drops, this opens up the possibility of like running Magic Carpet and Paladin, which has been done before. It's a great effect. And like that would allow Paladin to generate tempo, which is I think one of the things that the class struggles with most outside of card draw. Basically, I think the sky's the limit with this card, and the only thing that's really holding it back is that it's in Paladin. And then next we've got Frazzled Freshman, a 1-mana 1/4 priest minion, and I think we finally figured out how much mana a Silverback Patriarch would need to cost to be a good minion, because a 1-mana 1/4 is ridiculous. The threat of Apotheosis buffing this on turn 3 means that this is a must-remove card in most matchups. And there's also that 2-drop from the rework that buffs health. So, I'm like actually like genuinely worried about the snowball potential of this card. But, we do have that new card, Evolving Missiles, that I mentioned earlier, which I think would actually like absolutely wreck this dude. So, maybe I'm being dramatic. I will say, though, that I am happy to see that they're like playing more into pre-strength of high health minions rather than the random card generation that we've been getting lately. And speaking of random card generation, I guess this would probably be like a nerf to the Galakron hero power, but I don't know, let me know what you guys think down in the comments on this one. And now moving on to a new warrior legendary, we've got Rattlegore. It's a 9-mana 9/9 with Death Rattle. Resummon this with -1/-1. And you know what? I think this card is so cool and also pretty powerful. It's almost impossible to clear this off if you don't have like a transform effect or a Plague of Death. But even though I think it's really cool, I think it's probably too slow, and I don't think it's better than Warrior's current win conditions of like bombs and OTK core crunch shenanigans. So unfortunately, I don't really seeing that much competitive play unless there's like a card that's coming out that's going to let you like cheat this out super early. Then hey, like totally reevaluate my opinion. But again, it makes me sad to say this. I think it's just too slow. Then we have another cool warrior card, Troublemaker, an 8-mana 6/8, and at the end of your turn, it summons 2 3/3s that attack random enemies. And you know what, like another cool warrior card, but my gut is telling me that this will be a card you probably like never put in your deck, but you're going to be like really happy to randomly evolve into this with Witchy Lackey. Maybe it makes the cut in Highlander Warrior because it does do something when it hits the board and it can snowball if left unchecked. So it's got stuff going for it, but I think there are just like better things to do for 8-mana in Warrior. But I don't play much Arena, but if I had to guess, it seems like a pretty good Arena card. Now, last but certainly not least, we have Transfer Student. It's a 2-mana 2/2 that has a different effect based on which game board you're playing on. And this is going to be the free card that like everyone gets this expansion, just so you know. So my thoughts on this card, I like when Hearthstone cards embrace the digital aspect of the game, but I think this is the wrong way to go about it. Yes, this is a fun card, but I think the randomness of this card is just so out of your control that it's going to be frustrating if this like ever sees competitive play. Hearthstone Top Decks released a list of the different effects, which I put down in that description. And, some of them are definitely better than others. The difference between this being a 2-mana 2/2 with Reborn on the Oldham Feet board versus discovering a dragon on the Descent of Dragons board is huge. And again, I like that they're embracing the digital aspect of the game. I feel like it's one of the Hearthstone strengths. But I wish they would go about it in a way where, like, as a player, I still have, like, some sense of agency in, like, what my cards do. But anyways, that's it for card reveals today. I know I just dumped on Transfer Student at the end here, but I'm still very, very hyped for this expansion. It's always fun to have new cards to play with, and I look forward to making some extra superior deck techs for you guys this expansion. But you know what? More importantly, what are you guys most excited about in Scholomance Academy? Let me know down in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it really helps me out. And yeah, stay superior, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Later.